Chapter 1 of the Sheridan Road Mystery. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Sheridan Road Mystery by Paul and Mabel Thorne. Chapter 1. The Shot. It was a still, balmy night in late October. The scent of burned autumn leaves hung in the air, and a hazy moon, showing just over the housetops, deepened the shadows on the streets. Policeman Murphy stopped for a moment, as was his custom, at the corner of Lawrence Avenue and Sheridan Road. He knew that it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, as that was the hour at which he usually reached this point. He glanced sharply up and down Sheridan Road, which at that moment seemed to be completely deserted, save for the distant red tail light of a belated taxi, the whir of whose engine came to him quite distinctly on the quiet night air. Just then, Policeman Murphy heard a shot. Instantly his body quickened with an awakened alertness, and he glanced east and west along the lonely stretch of Lawrence Avenue. He saw nothing, and concluded that the sound he had heard must have come from one of the many apartment buildings which surrounded him. Murphy pondered for a moment. Was it a burglary, a domestic row, or perhaps a murder? The position of the shot was hard to locate, for it had been but the sound of a moment on the still night. Murphy, however, decided to take a chance, and started stealthily north on Sheridan Road, keeping within the shadow that clung to the buildings. He had moved only a short distance in this way, when a man in a bathrobe dashed out of the doorway of an apartment house just ahead of him, and ran north. Murphy instantly broke into pursuit. At the sound of his heavily shod feet on the pavement, the man in the bathrobe stopped and turned. Murphy slowed up, and the man advanced to meet him. "I'm glad you're handy, officer," panted the man. "I think somebody has been murdered in our building. Come and investigate." "Sure," assented Murphy. "That's what I'm here for." And as they mounted the steps of the apartment house, he inquired, "What flat was it?" "The top floor on the north side," replied the man, who then informed Murphy that his name was Marsh, and that he lived on the second floor just below this apartment. "You see," Marsh continued, "a little while ago my wife and I were awakened by a noise in the apartment over us. It sounded like a struggle of some kind. As we listened, we felt sure that several people were taking part in it. Suddenly there was a shot, and a sound followed as if a body had fallen to the floor. After that was absolute silence. I hastily put on my bathrobe and was hurrying out to find a policeman when I met you." By this time Marsh, with Murphy at his heels, had reached the door of the third-floor apartment. Murphy placed a thick forefinger on the button of the electric bell and rang it sharply several times. The men could distinctly hear the clear notes of the bell, but no other sound reached them. Again Murphy pressed the bell without response. "Murder all right, I guess," muttered Murphy, "and the guy's probably slipped down the back stairs. Who lives here, anyway?" he inquired, turning to Marsh. "That's the peculiar part about it," was the reply. "The people who rent this apartment went to Europe this summer, and as I understand it, they won't be back for another month. The apartment has been closed all summer. That is what amazed Mrs. Marsh and myself when we heard this sound above us." "It looks like we'll have to break in," said Murphy. "Let me use your telephone." "Certainly," agreed Marsh, and led the way to his apartment. Murphy sat down at the telephone. His hand was on the receiver when he suddenly paused and turned to Marsh. "You know," he commented, half meditatively, "it's funny we haven't seen anybody else show up in the halls. I heard that shot way down at Lawrence Avenue. At least the people across the hall ought to have been waked up by it. Are you sure it was in this house?" "Why, certainly," retorted Marsh. "Didn't I tell you that we heard the struggle and the shot right over our heads?" "Well, it sure takes a lot to disturb some people," said Murphy, as he placed the telephone receiver to his ear and called for his connection. After some words, he got his precinct station. "Hello," he called. "Is that you, Sergeant? This is Murphy. I'm in the Hillcrest Apartments on Sheridan Road. Yes, that's right. Just north of Lawrence Avenue. I think somebody's been murdered, and we'll have to break in. Send the wagon, will you?" "Don't know a damn thing yet," he added, evidently in reply to a question. "Hurry up the wagon." He replaced the receiver on its hook, then turned to Marsh as he stood up. "I think I'll hang around the door up there until the boys come. Much obliged for your help. You'd better go back to bed now." "Oh, no," objected Marsh. "I couldn't sleep with all this excitement going on. And then, Mr. Ames is a friend of mine. He would want me to look after things for him." Murphy looked Marsh over in evident speculation. The man was tall and broad-shouldered. His face was clean-shaven. The features were strong, with a regularity that many people would consider handsome. He was what one would call a big man, but this appearance of bigness arose more from a heavy frame
Sample complete. Ready to continue?